Ladies and gentlemen, we finally have our Indian team for the World Cup 2025. And it's none other than Team Aryan, the squad that just won BMPS 2025 and booked their ticket to the Globals.
And this is the time we announce the champions of Relive BMPS 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello and welcome Team Aryan!
After years of missing from the biggest international stages, India is finally back. But what makes this even more special is that it's not one of the big names or powerhouse orgs we all expected. It's an underdog team, making their debut, qualifying for the grand finals and then absolutely dominating it to go global. Massive respect and congratulations to Team Aryan. You guys truly deserve this moment.
Down to the top two teams, 7 players left, and Team Aryan, I love this confidence, just pushed through. 4 Miracle, 1 man down and out, last 2 left standing. It's a 3 versus 1 as Beard Baba falls, and now it's down to Boko. But as the name says, will he lose or will he not? A fight against Aryan himself, and he'll be forced to bow down as Team Aryan end up securing a big chicken dinner.
Now, let's be real. How many of us actually expected this team to win BMPS? They came in with no org, competing under the name of their IGL Aryan, and went on to win it all. Honestly, I didn't even really notice them during the early stages of the tournament. In fact, not even by the end of day 1 of the grand finals. But then, they made sure we all noticed. They forced us to pay attention. From day 2 onwards, they straight up stole the limelight and proved that they weren't just lucky. They were legit.
Godsoman's still alive in that compound. Aryan, they've got the man upper. No one's going to be stopping them from sealing the deal and getting the chicken dinner. What a knock that was. Aryan on the verge of converting this game, spotting out the last man of Godsoman out in the open. And Aryan, what a game that was. This is what you call a nuclear performance. The zone was not gifted to Aryan. They were fighting through the entire time.
Now, Team Aryan's BMPS journey started off pretty well. They managed to stay among the top 16 teams by the end of round 1, out of a total of 96 competing teams. That alone is a massive achievement, and it gave them a direct ticket to round 3, bypassing the chaos of round 2.
Coming in from aimbot from middle, but Aryan gonna go for the rush here. Looks like we're going for the flush. The rush comes to signify. Gonna be in a world of pain as they get completely surrounded here. The shots coming in and Aryan will gobble them up. Instead, no chance whatsoever. Signify Esports gonna get completely mowed down, and even Immortal fall. Everyone falls, and a very, very clean 4-man takedown coming from Team Aryan.
Now in round 3, the competition got even tougher. A total of 48 teams clashed with 1 goal to finish in the top 24 and make it to the semi-finals. And Team Aryan, they somehow pulled it off. They finished 17th overall, just making the cut, but qualifying for the semis nonetheless. But now here's where the real question started to creep in. Can they do it again? This time not just against mid-tier squads, but against India's most elite PUBG Mobile teams. Until now, we hadn't seen Team Aryan even break into the top 5 of any major stage. They were flying under the radar, quiet, unnoticed. Until the semi-finals week 1. Because in that week, they roared. Game after game, they just kept dominating.
We are now finally down towards the last 2 teams. It is a 4 versus 4. Aryan XTMG Gaming versus Seoul. And it seems like Seoul, they've done their job. They're waiting for the right moment. And guess what? Finally, Aryan needs to get out in the open, and Seoul is trying to get center control. Spree has been made. Looking for a couple of flushes as well. Seoul taking some serious damage as Aryan continues to pummel through the smokes. Legit prone out in the open, not spotted out yet, but they are trying to predictively find someone. But Legit actually gets scattered from the sides, and now Cyrex with the nade finds Goblin. 4 versus 2, Manya falls, and just like that, Aryan gets the chicken dinner as Seoul gets completely shut down.
By the end of week 1 of the semis, Team Aryan was sitting 2nd on the leaderboards. Not just that, they had the most chicken dinners out of all teams across 12 matches, with a total of 107 points. They didn't just qualify, they went directly to the grand finals of BMPS. No one, and I mean no one, saw that coming. An orgless team full of rookies coming out of nowhere to dominate the strongest names in Indian PUBG Mobile and becoming one of the first teams to lock their grand final slot. That's when the community started noticing. people finally saw what they were about. They entered the Grand Finals arena to thunderous applause, finally getting the recognition they truly deserved. But day one of the Grand Finals, it wasn't as smooth as everyone hoped. By the end of the day, Team Aryan was sitting at the 5th place with 41 points, 19 points behind the table toppers. That's because 4Medical just went insane. With 3 chicken dinners on the very first day, they stole the show, looked absolutely unstoppable and completely set the pace of the finals.
Get insane knocks, but that's the problem. He does not have any sort of nates to play with. Genesis Esports slowly and steadily getting confident. They're pushing up close and personal against the players of 4Miracle Esports. Apollo, once again, he's stepping out in the open. Apollo's playing with a lot of risk. And Genesis Esports Shadow gets spotted out in the open. That's going to be the equalizer the players of 4Miracle Esports were looking for. Down to a 3-man squad. Genesis, it's not looking good. Genesis are losing players left, right, center, but they reply back. Apollo still inside of the game, and he's keeping this banner sky high. 4Miracle down to 2 players. Genesis Esports down to 2 players. It's taken down to a 2v2 in the end, and now Apollo is the only man standing. Can he really clutch it out for the points? That's the question. It's taken down to 1v1 in the end, but Apollo, he gets dealt with, and it will be 4Miracle Esports to get their 3rd chicken dinner of the day.
Meanwhile, Team Aryan had a bit of a mixed bag of a day. They had a strong 2nd place with 5 elims in Game 2 and an absolutely banger CD of 15 elims in Game 4. But the other 4 games, straight up disappointments. Now day 2 was the day of comebacks, and Team Aryan were one of those teams who stepped up. They looked more confident, more coordinated, and the difference showed on the leaderboards. In Game 8, they secured a 5th place with 8 eliminations. Then in Game 9, they dropped a much needed chicken dinner with 7 elims, followed by another 5th place with 4 eliminations in Game 10. This string of consistent performances pushed them all the way to the 2nd place in the standings. At this point, Team Aryan looked in form. It felt like they were building momentum to overtake 4Medical by the end of the day. But just when we thought the race for the top was between Aryan and 4Medical, another team rose from the bottom. Nonex, who was sitting at the 10th place, went absolutely nuclear with 2 back-to-back massive chicken dinners in the final games of day 2.
Wants that knock, but damage dished out. Flank axis gained by Gordex. This is an incredible line of fire. 4Miracle as well have been finished off just a few seconds ago, and now here is the final fight, the last 4v4. NON taking on the players of 8-bit, and Levi, the front line, are taking on the IGL Samraj. Man dropped to the floor by Roman, and Levi is gonna get one more. Gordex finds another. The finish secured. 2 versus 4, 17 eliminations already on the board, and there's a potential 30 bomber being brought by NON. Aquinox is gonna get knocked out as well, and that leaves Gamla boy. And you know what happens to Gamlas? Well, they are gonna be broken to smithereens.
Oh my
NON, they make it happen from the middle back to the very top. 103 points on the board, and the first position heading into the last day of the finals.
Those insane games took them from the mid-table straight to the top of the leaderboards with a total of 103 points by the end of the day. As a result, Team Aryan were now pushed down to the 3rd place with a total of 87 points. That meant they were still 16 points behind the leaders, with just one final day left to change everything. And that's when it happened. Day 3, the decider. Team Aryan went all in. No holding back, no second guessing, just pure domination. Game 13, 6th place with 4 eliminations. Game 14, 3rd place finish. Game 15, another solid 4th place. And Game 16, the big one. A huge chicken dinner with 16 eliminations.
Down to the top 2 teams, 7 players left. And Team Aryan, I love this confidence, just pushed through. 4Miracle, 1 man down and out. Last 2 left standing. It's a 3 versus 1 as Beard Baba falls. And now it's down to Boko. But as the name says, will he lose or will he not? A fight against Aryan himself. And he'll be forced to bow down.
4 back-to-back consistent matches capped off with an explosive win. And just like that, Team Aryan were back on top. They now had 134 total points, 13 points ahead of 4Medicals with just 2 games remaining in the grand finals. At this point, it looked like Team Aryan had done it. They had the lead, they had the momentum, and they just needed to hold it together. But Game 18, the final game, turned out to be a nightmare. Under pressure and stuck outside the zone, they made a risky rotation and slammed into an already held shack at the center of the circle. It was a brutal wipeout.
Well, who clutches this final chicken dinner? But as soon as I say this, Aryan PMG, they're going on a wild goose chase. They're just driving full throttle inside the zone and trying to find some sort of control. And guess what? They drove past everyone and not getting shot, and they might find one themselves.
Well, they're gonna find more than one as they run in. It is gonna be a scramble. Godzooman not down, but Aryan, Cyrex taken out, and the entire team runs through, and they get annihilated. It is gonna be a massive blunder and potentially the trophy that they've lost.
Suddenly, it was all up in the air again, because right behind them were Non-X, Los Hermanos, and For Medical, all hungry, all close in points. And somehow, none of the chasing teams could pull it off either.
No, it's not gonna happen to OP. Hypnotized, surprise, surprise, from the backs, takes down Reaper, and now For Miracle. As soon as they go in for the exit, they crash into Los Hermanos, and they crumble. A shutdown, an upset has been made. Los Hermanos, they survive, but no, they cannot chase as well. Another day from God's rain to spoil the dreams of a new champion. Aryan XTMG just might be able to hold on to the title.
They couldn't capitalize, couldn't rack up enough points. And when the dust settled, Team Aryan with 136 total points stood tall at the very top. Champions of BMPS 2025, just 4 points ahead of Non-X. A story of nerves, grit, and one of the greatest underdog runs we have seen in a long, long time.
Team Aryan. What gameplay!
So now the big question is, can this underdog team do well in this PMWC? They have already dominated the entire Indian region, so it's fair to say they are the best India has to offer right now. Yes, they might lack global experience, but then again, every legendary underdog story starts like this, with no big names, no experience, just pure grit and hunger. And the teams that face the heat with heart, the ones who don't crack under pressure, those are the ones who go on to create history. I'm honestly excited to watch how Team Aryan performs, how they handle the pressure, how they adapt, and how they carry the hopes of a nation on their shoulders. Whether they finish 24th or 16th doesn't even matter. What matters is they have earned their place on the global stage, and as rookies. And this is just the beginning.